Hello everybody, it's Murray here and welcome back to my channel M Stewart Paintings. On today's easy lake painting tutorial we're going to paint a gorgeous lake scene in autumn. We're going to learn how to paint reflections in water. I'm going to teach you how to mix really realistic colours and how to use really easy brush techniques so you can paint things like water reflections. You can learn how to put ripples in your water using different types of brushes, and we can create together a really easy autumn lake gorgeous acrylic painting. So let's get into it. So a really easy tutorial today. I used the following colours. They are titanium white, cad yellow, a cad yellow deep hue, cad orange light, cad orange, raw sienna, light green, chromium oxide green, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, raw umber brown and ivory black. Now I've got a really basic outline of a lake. It looks a bit messy, don't worry. I've just stained my canvas a burnt sienna and I've used cobalt blue. What we're going to have is we're going to have a lake scene. We're going to have some far off trees into the distance. We're going to have a big bush to the left, and then we're going to bring this tree forward and just have a little bit of land. And I'm going to teach you how to use colour to bring things forward and how to push things back into the distance, just using different types of colours. It's a really easy tutorial today. So the first thing we're going to do is start at the back, and we're going to create a nice sky, and we're going to create a mirror effect on our lake. So a really easy way to paint reflections in water is to basically mirror your sky on the water below. So the first thing I'm going to do is take lots of white. I'm going to take some cerulean blue, which is a lighter blue, and I'm going to add a dot of brown just to make it a little bit more silvery. And I'm going to paint the horizon. So all I've done, I've used cobalt blue as an outline. You don't have to paint your canvas burnt sienna. I just do it because when I'm using pastel colours like this blue, by using a darker colour with the brown, I can see where I need to thicken up the paint, and I can see where I need to give it a second layer of paint. So I just prefer it than a white canvas, but you don't have to. So all we're doing, we're creating a mirror effect. So look, if you imagine the horizon, think of a sheet of glass like a mirror. The exact same colour is going to reflect below it. So all we're doing, we're creating roughly the same shape on the water below. So we've got the horizon basically in the middle of the painting. And all we're doing with the exact same colour, we're creating the exact same shape. And we're just leaving a gap where we're going to have all the faraway trees. So we've just got this nice mirror effect. Now with skies, the horizon is always the lightest colour. So if you've got a blue sky, that's why we have a nice pastel blue at the bottom of the horizon where it meets the land. And all we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit more cerulean blue and a tiny bit of cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is more purpley and more cooler. So we're just going to add a dot of it. And we've just got less white now. And all we're doing, we're just making a nice darker pastel blue. So if you imagine the horizon's nice and light where it meets the tree line, and as you go up into the sky it gets more nice and blue. And all we're going to do, look, we're going to get plenty of paint on our big brush, and we're just going to mirror that on the lake water. So all we're doing, look, we're just mirroring the sky. So this is such an easy way to paint reflections in water. So if you had a sunset, you just do the same colours. Whatever's in the sky, you mirror on the water. Now to blend, all you do, look, you just create X shapes with your brush and just gently blend the two tones together. So you don't want a big jump between light blue and dark blue. We want to blend it together. So all we're doing, look, we're creating X shapes with our brush. And then it looks like it's gradually fading off into the distance. And then to frame our painting, we always make our corners darker, so it gets you to focus down the middle. So we're just adding more cerulean blue and a tiny bit more cobalt blue just to make it a little bit darker. It's not got any, well, it's got a tiny bit of white from the previous mix, but not much. And as you can see, look, we're just going to frame the corners of our painting. Make it nice and dark. So there we go. So come down. And then we're going to do the same at the bottom of our painting. So think of that mirror. And we're just going to do the exact same technique. Look. So we've got this nice horizon in the middle. And it looks like it's getting darker the further away it gets from the horizon. And all we're going to do, now we've got it all blocked in, we're just going to blend it. So look, we've got this nice horizon, and then we've got this jump to the middle tone, and we're just going to do our X shapes with our big brush. And we should have a lovely reflection. So as I say, if you had a red sky, you can do the exact same technique. If you have a yellow sky, whatever you want to do. But it's the exact same technique. It's just like a mirror. So with my canvas, as I say, I always paint my canvas brown. And when acrylics dry, because they're water-based, they can look really scruffy. So if you want to make your work a little bit more professional, you can always give it 2 coats of paint. I'm just doing that with the magic of editing. I'm just going to fast forward it. It's just to show you, look, if you add 2 coats of paint, sometimes you can get all those horrible brush marks and make it just look a little bit more smoother. But I'm not going to bore you and make you sit through it for the next few minutes, so I just fast forwarded it. So we've got this lovely blended sky. So now we want to create distance and put our trees far away into the background. So we're going to get some chromium oxide green. It's a big mouthful. And we're going to get some cobalt blue. Now cobalt blue is really good for pushing things back. We're going to add a little bit of brown, because brown takes the colour out of colours. It makes it a bit more pastel. And we're going to add some white so it's not so harsh. So dark green, some cobalt blue to push it back and make it look further in the distance. A little bit of brown just to suck a bit of the colour out. And some white. And what you should get is this musty sort of bluey green. And all we're going to do, we're going to create shapes of far away trees. Now try, if you can, to make them all different shapes and sizes. So think of variety's the spice of life. Not everything looks the same. If everything was the same, it would be boring. So you want to make all your trees different heights and shapes. So make some tall, make some round and fat. So try to make them all different so they don't all just look the same. And that blue, that cobalt blue with the green, what it does, once it dries, it pushes the area back. So cobalt blue is a really, really good colour to add to any colour if you want to push something off into the distance. So I'm just going to add a little bit more green and blue. My palette is drying really quick today. Someone asked me on the comments below last week about your palette drying. What you can buy is a little mister bottle where you spray things like plants. You can get them on Amazon or any of these companies for literally a few pounds or a few dollars. And you can literally just spray your palette and what's it called? It keeps your mix from drying. Now all we're going to do to paint reflections really easily, we're going to mirror it. So just like we did with the sky, we're going to try to mirror the shapes of these trees. So what is showing in the top half, we're going to try roughly to match the shapes. So if I have a tall one here, look, I'm going to try to do that. And this one's a little bit bobbly. And we're just roughly trying to match the shapes. Now don't worry if you don't get them exact. I'm not getting them exact. But what it does, look, it tricks the eye. It makes it look like a reflection. And because you've got that really, really nice blended sky, look how real that looks. And it's only taken you a few minutes. So it's a really, really easy technique. You can all do this at home. This tutorial is perfect for beginners. Now this bush is going to be closer towards the viewer and we want to push that bush back. So we're going to make it darker. So remember, in all the tutorials we make our colours in the foreground darker and we make our colours in the background lighter. So we're going to make the same mix. We're going to make some green blue and a little bit of brown. And we're just going to add not so much white. We're just going to add a tiny bit of white. So look, it's a lot darker, but it's the same colours. And all we're going to do the same technique. Because that big bush is closer towards the viewer, and because we're using a darker colour, it will bring it closer. So again, really, really easy. All these tips and tricks we're teaching you, you can use for anything. So if you just think, if you want to bring something closer towards you, you just make it darker. We don't want to use blacks just yet, because blacks we save to the very last to bring things the closest to you, because they're really overwhelming and it brings it really, really close. So that's why we're using blues and browns. And all we're going to do, look, it's a big fat bush. It's like a big belly, isn't it? So we're gonna reflect that into the water. Same colour. We're just going to try to get the reflection in the water. So we're just going to block her in. And as she dries, acrylics always dry darker. So she should look closer towards us. And then this end bit is going to be even closer towards the viewer. So we're just going to mix some of our colours, but we're going to add a little bit more blue and brown and a little less green. So more cobalt blue, more raw umber brown, and just a little less green. And we're going to make a much darker shade. And that again should bring that colour, should bring that area closer towards the viewer. So we should have a nice pushback tree line. We should have a big bush coming towards us. And then we'll have this floor area. Don't worry about your tree just yet. We've got that nice cobalt blue outline. We can paint her back in later. We just want to block in this area at the bottom. Here we go. And I'm just going to make this reflection a little bit chubbier. A bit like me. I'm just going to make it a bit more rounded. So let's bring its belly bit out here a bit. Make it look more realistic. So there we go. So we've got this nice pushback tree line. And that's all dry now. So we're going to use hot colours to create an autumn effect. So we've got all these nice colours. So we've got raw sienna brown here. We've got some cad orange. So raw sienna brown and cad orange make that lovely sort of autumn leaf colour. And because this area is all dry, what we're going to do, we just got a smaller brush. We're just going to create texture. And all I'm doing, I'm leaving little gaps in the underpainting of that nice sort of greeny blue. I'm just doing little splodges to create the illusion of a nice autumn tree. So if we've done it in the top, we're going to reflect it in the water below. So again, we're just trying to create the same sort of shape. So all I'm doing, I'm just roughly trying to mirror the patterns and the same colour. So there we go, we've got our first nice autumn tree. So that looks really pretty. And then why don't we get that colour, and we'll have another one. Let's not all have them the same colour, let's have them all different colours. So as I say, variety is the spice of life. Let's have one over here. So all we're doing, look, we're just trying to mirror whatever we've done in the top half. We're going to try to reflect in the water below. So whatever colour you use, you want to mirror it in your reflection. So let's have one. Let's have one over here. Why not? Let's have a little reflection of it. So it's such an easy technique. It's really relaxing as well. I love sitting outside looking at lakes. Now this colour, which is golden yellow, is called Cad Yellow Deep Hue. You can make that, you don't have to buy that. You can make that with cad yellow and a little bit of orange. You just want to create a golden colour. And we're going to do the exact same technique. So look, all we're doing, we're leaving little gaps in the underpainting to shine through. Let some of that green shine through. And we're just doing little splats to create, if I zoom in for you so you can see a little bit better, to create the illusion of autumn trees. So again, look, if we've done it in the top, we're going to mirror it in the bottom. So there we go. Let's have one here. You can be that one. See, I love autumn. I love this time of year when all the colours change. You get these lovely sort of pumpkin colours and golds and raw siennas. So if you're out and about, you can take photos and then you can try and match the colours. Now this colour is called Cad Orange Light. It's just a more lighter orange. It's like the colour of a pumpkin. And it's really, really nice for autumn colours. So again, it's just a little bit darker than that Cad Orange, that Cad Yellow Deep Hue, that golden yellow. So we're just going to make some of these a little bit more orangey gold. It's very similar. So we've got this nice autumn colours, nice reflections, really easy, nice and relaxing. So let's make this one look the same. So just take your time. You don't have to do the trees in the same order. You can mix it all up. It's your painting. And I'm going to use this colour. It's just light green. I'm just going to mix a bit of the orange into it to make it more autumny. Autumny, that's not even a word. But never mind. So there's the subscribe button. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. Help support the channel, because the more artists that like and support the channel, the more other artists, because of the algorithm, get to see the videos. So by helping promote the channel and help like and subscribe, the algorithm will show these tutorials to more artists and they can learn more. So thank you everyone for supporting the channel and liking and subscribing. I'm just going to get some of the horizon colour, which was tons of white and a tiny bit of the cerulean blue. And all we're going to do, we're just going to neaten areas up where we've got some of the scruffy outline. You can just paint over it. That is the wonder of acrylics. Unlike oils, we don't have to wait ages and ages for it to dry. You can just either use a hairdryer or you can just wait for them to dry over about 10 minutes. And you can just paint in where you've made any boo-boos. So if you've got any of the outline showing, you can just cover it. Now this is a really fantastic technique we were doing the other day when we did a tutorial on trees, is to poke holes using the sky colour to create realism in your trees. So all we're doing, we've just got a smaller brush, and all I'm doing, I'm just getting blobs of that horizon colour, and I'm just creating little blobs to poke holes in my trees, just so it looks like some of the sky is shining through the trees. Really easy technique, again, super easy, and it just adds another layer of realism. So you can do this with any trees. Once you've got that texture nailed, you can just come back and poke holes. And the great thing is, if you make a mistake, as I said, acrylics are so forgiving. They're so cheap as well, so they're great for beginners and to learn. You can always you can always dry it, and then you can always put back some of the colours of your trees to change the shapes back. So if you go a bit too gun-ho and you go a bit crazy with your blobs, you can always get some of the colours like the orange or the green and just change some of the shapes back. So there's no bother. Nothing's a problem, you can always fix it. So there we go. So we've got some nice bushy trees, all different heights. So let's just make that sort of greener because that matches. There we go. So while that's drying, let's work on this tree. So we're going to do a similar sort of technique. We're going to get some brown and blue to make a really nice dark shadow colour. So brown and blue, tiny bit of green, a tiny dot of black, just a dot, because black is very overwhelming, so we don't want too much. And we've got this really dark colour, and all we're going to do, we're going to texturize our big bush here. So all we're going to do, we're going to leave some of the underpainting, some of that dark green in gaps, and we're just going to create splodges to make it look like it's texturized. It's got lots and lots of detail. So again, really easy trick. I'm just going to make the bottom bit a little bit darker because that would be a bit more in the shade. If you imagine the sunlight is shining down, its belly would be getting quite a lot of shadow, this corner. So we're just making the bottom bit a little bit darker. So, and then if we've done it in the top, we're just going to roughly mirror it in the bottom. Obviously, we're not going to be exact. You just want kind of a rough, same idea. So just do it here on this outer edge. Okay, and we're going to swap to a fan brush, and we're going to get some of our light green. Now, a fan brush is really, really good for things like leaves and grass. We're going to add a little bit of white because there was some white there and I just mixed it in. And we're just going to add a tiny bit of brown just to suck a bit of the colour out so it's not so bright. And all we're going to do, because the brush has funny bristles like a fan, it's really, really good for just pushing down against your canvas and creating sort of really rough shapes. So it's really, really good for things like leaves and long grass. We've used this before for long grass when we've done some of the tutorials. It's really, really good if you ever paint animals for fur. Believe it or not, it's really, really good for that. So if you imagine if the sun's coming down, it's sort of hitting this outer edge, and that's why we're using a brighter green. So this edge is getting much more sunlight, and we're just going to let it fade out into that dark corner and on the bottom bit so it's not as bright and it looks like this area is in the shade. And then we're just going to mirror it again. So look, if that top edge, we're going to do the same on the reflection with the same colour, just so it all matches. So can you see we've added the texture, but our big bush looks just a bit blobby, doesn't it? It doesn't look very like a bush. So what we can do, we can poke holes in it again, and we can create the realism. But first you want to create the texture. So just like we did with the tree tutorial the other day, you want to create the texture and then you want to poke holes in it. So if we get some cerulean blue and our lots of white, we can make that lovely sky colour. We can go back to a smaller brush. And look, you can just change the shape. So just look like we did in those faraway trees. We can make these a lot more bobblier and scruffier. And it looks like the edge where you get things like leaves and branches, and it's all bobbly. So we're just poking holes. So I'm just going to cover that area up. There we go. So we're using the lighter blue at the horizon, and then we'll add some more cerulean blue as we go up. But at the bottom here, the horizon's almost a whitey blue, isn't it? So we're just poking holes, making it more tree and bush-like. So by making it all scruffy, so look, that colour's a bit too light, so we're just going to add a little bit more cerulean blue. And look, we're just going to match the colour of the sky, just so the holes that we're poking all match and blend. So look, by just making it all bobbly, rough, it just makes it look more realistic. And because you added the texture first, that's what tricks the eye. God, I'm giving away all my secrets in these tutorials. So as I say, it's so easy once you know how. It's just knowing how and knowing what tools to use in the brushes to give you every advantage to make your work so much better. So look, we're just doing the same with the reflection. Just poking those holes, trying to make everything match. As I say, it doesn't really match, but it just does look realistic just from putting in roughly the same shapes. But it's mainly the colours that trick the eye. That's what I keep telling everyone. Learn to mix colours, and that's what will create the realism. So look, we're just going to make these edges nice and rough and scruffy. And the other thing when using acrylics, I say this in all the tutorials, if you ever get nervous about a stage and you feel a bit overwhelmed or anything, dry your painting with a hairdryer before you do anything like the detail. And then if you make a mistake, all your hard work is still there because you've got this lovely dried painting. And if you have to wipe away, say, a bush or a tree or anything like that, you can just use a baby wipe or a wet cloth, and all your painting will still be there underneath. So a good insurance policy is to always dry your work on each stage, and then if you make a boo-boo or a mistake, you can just dry your work with a hairdryer or wipe it away. Okay? I'm just going to make this one a little bit greener just because it was a bit brown, so I'm just going to smooth it out because I want it to look like it's fading away. So I'm just using a bit of that light green that we used on this big bush. Now we've got it mixed. I'm just going to get some cad orange light and some cad orange, mix the two together. Tiny bit of raw sienna just to make it more autumny. I'm just going to glaze the top of this bush because I want to make it look like it's in autumn. So by just giving it a tiny hint of orange, I'm not pushing down very hard, I'm just glazing over the top like a crayon. So we did a lot of glazing on the last tutorial when we painted that sunset wave, didn't we? So it's the same technique. You're just literally colouring in areas. Look, you're just glazing over the top, just giving it a hint of orange, just so it looks nice and warm and it looks more like it's in the fall and autumn. So here we go. We should go right up to the top, so it looks like it's glowing in the sunlight. Easy peasy. And then we're going to do the same on the reflection. So as I say, think of like stages to build anything. Once you know to do the sky first, and then you push things into the background, and then you use darker colours to bring them forward, and you texturize it, and you can add highlights over the top. As I say, once you know each stage, it's so easy. So look, another really easy trick is when your painting is dry, you can use chalk to try things out. So great thing about chalk is, look, if you don't like something, you can just literally wipe it away, and you can paint over it as well, and it leaves no marks. So just buy yourself some chalk. It's super cheap. It's like $1 or £1. And you can try things out on your painting before you actually commit to them. So I'm just mixing some green, some cobalt blue and some brown to create a nice musty brown. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to create some pastel shadows. Again, we've got plenty of cobalt blue, we've got some brown, and we've got some of that light green. And I'm just going to create some shadows in between some of the different colours, just so there's a little bit of definition between the trees. It just makes it look where you've got the difference in colour of tree. By using a little bit of brown, it just looks like some areas are in the shade. So again, just at the bottom, if you think of any tree or think of an umbrella, what's underneath it would be a bit in the shade. So by adding a little bit of this pastel brown, we can just make it look like the underneath is just a bit darker. So again, we're just trying to match that in the water and the reflection. And that chalk will kind of be where the water and the tree line matches. So what we could do is we could use that to create some ripples in the water. So we're going to swap to a flat brush. So a flat headed brush is just exactly what it says in the name. You can add some cerulean blue and lots of white to get the horizon colour. And what we're going to do, because it's got a nice flat edge, we can get really nice straight lines. And we're just going to create, don't worry if they're not too straight, because if you think this is all the sort of water bank where it's sort of meeting the tree line, so it's not going to be perfectly straight anyway, we can create ripples in the water to create really super realistic reflections. So all I'm going to do, I'm just using horizon colour. And I'm poking holes now in our reflection. So look, I'm going to create a straight line. It's really easy with this brush because the brush is flat. I'm going to have little bubbles in it just so it looks like the water is breaking. And look at this. It will look like a reflection. It will look like ripples in the water. And you can get pure white because obviously we've got the same colour down here. If we use pure white, you can see it more. So we're just going to do the same effect to create nearer ripples. So where you have a nice calm lake that you can sit beside, you still get little sort of reflections in the sunlight. So by using this pure white on this light blue, it sort of again tricks the eye and we can create the illusion of reflections. And the flat brush, I've tried to put links to in the description box to brushes that I use. I appreciate, look, I live in London. All the viewers are all around the world, so you're not necessarily can get the same products that I'm recommending, but there's a link in the description box. But flat brushes, as I say, fan brushes, things like that, you can get them in any art shop. They're really cheap, but they make your life so much easier. So look, all I'm doing, I'm doing the exact same technique here in this dark reflection here. And I'm just giving them a slight curve, because if you think of water as quite feminine, it's very curved. So I'm just giving it almost like a semicircle, look, a little curve, just to make it look like it's curling round and the water's not as flat. But look at that, look how realistic that looks. We've got this dark bush, we've got this push back, lovely tree line in the distance. We've got our lovely blended sky. And we're going to keep with our flat brush, we're going to clean it. So please clean it. And as I say, if you dry your work now, before you attempt to paint a tree, if you make a mistake, at least all your hard work of all those gorgeous reflections won't be ruined. So dry your work, and then if you're confident, we're going to load up some dark brown, a little dot of black, and some cobalt blue. And we're going to use the flat edge of this brush and we're going to paint a dark tree. Now the reason we paint it dark is again to bring it forward. I think I've got a little bit too much water on my brush, so the bottom half is a bit splodgy, so excuse me. But what you want to do, you want to make the top of the tree look thinner than its trunk. So you want the trunk to be nice and chunky. So always try to make the tree trunk thicker. So I think I need to dry mine, so I'm just going to colour it in quickly. But I think I've got way too much water. So look, just by drying the painting, look, now it's nice and dry. I can use the exact same colour to go over that tree trunk and make her look nice and dark. So as I say, just by drying your painting, it makes such a difference. It makes your work so much easier to use. So as I say, you want to keep the tree trunk. Look, I'm going to fatten her out at the base. Give her a big booty. And we don't want the top half being wider. We want the base where it meets the ground to be nice and thick. And then these two branches, these could be the main branches. So they're nice and thin, but they are quite dark and prominent. And then we're just going to give it a little bit of shadow. We're going to sign it in the left, so we just want to make the left corner nice and dark for our signature to shine out. Whoops. Stay put. There we go. Right. And we're going to swap to this brush. Well, we used this for the tutorial the other day. This is a really fine liner. I can't remember what they're actually called, but basically the bristles are really elongated. They're really, really long. So again, it's so much easier to do spindly thin branches when you have a brush that does it all for you. So let's watch. This brush is so thin, it makes it so much easier to do branches. And you can even get the very tip of it, look, and just hardly touch the canvas, and you can do almost like pencil-like branches, like really thin. So again, it just makes your life so much easier. They cost £1 or $1. Having the right tools really gives you an advantage, because if you're trying to use the flat brush, it's much harder because that brush is a lot thicker. So just by using these sort of brushes, you can create, look, these really fine spindly branches. Now this tree is going to be a bit haggard and withered, a bit like me. So what we're going to do, we're going to make it have no leaves. One of the reasons I want to make it sort of bald and not have any leaves is to make it look like they've all fallen on the ground. So we're going to have some leaves in the foreground to make it nice and pretty. So I want this tree to I just want to teach you how to do the branches, but I don't want to put any leaves because I don't want to cover up all our hard work with that beautiful sky. So as I say, take your time, try to have a steady hand. If you're nervous, just have some baby wipes at hand, and if you make a mistake you can just wipe away a branch. So look, we're just going to have a really nice spindly one here. So same rule of thumb, try to have at the base of the branch thicker than the very end. So look, this is a lot thicker, and then as it goes towards the end it gets a lot thinner. So I'm just using that brush to make it look really thin. And again, that creates the realism. So having really thick branches at the beginning, so thicker, look, thicker, and then as it goes out it gets thinner and thinner and almost like a tiny, tiny outline. So let's have it sort of withering over here. It's Halloween in a few days, so I think I might do a Halloween tutorial soon as well. So any ideas for tutorials, please put them in the comments below. I love to hear from people at home if they've got anything you want to learn. And please, please, please don't forget to tag me at mstrippaintings on Instagram and Facebook with your versions of the tutorials. Some of them are absolutely fantastic. I'm really, really proud. And the channel is doing extremely well. We're hopefully going to hit 10,000 subscribers by Christmas. So please like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. And as I say, please tag me at mstrippaintings so we can shout out your work. So let's have a big branch over here. Could be all nice and broken. Just come in there. So I think the tree's pretty done. I'm really happy with that. And because it's dark, it's brought it forward. What we're going to do, just like we did with the big bush, we're going to put some highlights on her just so she's not as boring. So we're going to get some raw umber brown and mix some white and some cobalt blue into it to make it look like a browny grey, a musty grey. And on the right hand side, we're just going to put some knocks on her to create the illusion of bark. So this sort of musty dark browny grey, the neutral colour, we're just going to outline the edge. And we're going to leave little gaps so that dark outline colour can shine through. And we're just going to create the illusion of bark and texture on our tree. So if you imagine the sunlight is coming from one side of the tree is going to be in the light and the other side is going to be in the shade. And then we're just going to get some white, add that to the mix just to make it look more grey. And just give it a really bright highlight just on the edge on the right hand side. Just so it looks like it's really getting some of the sun. And that should blend into the previous tone. and make that edge look nice and highlighted. And then while it blends into the previous tone, there's not a big jump between the really bright highlight and the really dark left hand side, because you've got that one in the middle giving it a buffer. So there we go, just put some highlights here, just really easy, just adding a tiny bit of texture, a little bit down here, there we go, make it look really nice and realistic. And then we've saved our black to the last minute. We're going to bring this forward by using some black now, and we're going to create some texture. So what we're going to do, we're going to have all the fallen leaves of this tree. So all this tree could have lost all its leaves. So again, by just leaving some of the underpainting, you can create texture. So I'm leaving plenty of gaps so that sort of bluey green can shine through. And I'm just using the black. I'm just creating zigzags just to create the illusion of texture. So as I say, black is very overwhelming. It brings things very close to the viewer. So think of a silhouette. So that's why we've saved it all to the last. Saving the best for last. So now we're just going to get some cad orange and some raw sienna. And we're just going to start putting in some leaves. So all I'm doing, now we've got the texture in, a bit like the tree. I'm just getting some raw sienna. And I'm just creating little blobs. And these could be all the fallen fall leaves. So if you think of autumn, you get lovely leaves on the ground. We can't even see the floor. It's so pretty. My little daughter was collecting leaves for her school and making nice decorations out of them. It's really, really pretty time of year. So I'm going to leave the left hand corner a little bit darker. I'm not going to go right into the corner because I'm going to sign it there. So I want it to be nice and dark. But we're going to have some of this lovely raw sienna. Is really, really pretty for things like autumn. It's really, really good. You can make it with orange and brown. So if you haven't got access to all the paints, I appreciate that, and they're expensive. And we're living in tough times, so just mix some orange and brown and you get this colour. So now we've got our texturized leaves. We could have a big pile of leaves, why not here? We could have a big bundle where they've all sort of gathered. So again, I'm just trying to make the edges a little bit not as even. I'm trying to make the foreground a bit more interesting by just not having it as flat. Just having some texture, some bits of grass poking out. And then I'm going to get some cad orange light just to add some highlights. So again, if you think the sunlight's coming from the right, just having some that are getting a bit of sunlight, a little bit of a glisten. So just by adding some of that hot orange, you can heat areas up and make it look like it's in the light. And by having that darker raw sienna, you can have some areas that look like they're in the shade. So where our bundle of leaves are, we can just add some highlights. Look. So let's have some here. But it's the same technique. Look, we're just adding little blobs and little dots. Again, try to make them random. Can have a few just on the tip here. I don't want to make it too light in that corner because obviously we're going to sign it there. And I'm just going to get some black. And then on the left hand side, I'm just going to give it a bit of an outline. Just going to make the left hand side a lot darker. Just to bring her forward a little bit. It's the same here on this branch. So I'm just going to bring that left hand side a little bit forward, give it a bit of a sharp outline. And then now we've got everything done, we're just going to add a tiny few little finished details. So I'm just going to poke some of the sky colour into this far off bush. Again, just to create a little bit of realism. So again, same principle, we're just poking little holes. You can do it in the reflection if you want to. You really want to be super detailed like me. So we're just trying to match everything. So we've done it at the top, we can do it at the bottom. I'm just going to get a tiny bit of green, just a tiny bit, and a tiny bit of brown. And I'm just going to make this area a little bit greener, because where we didn't have any green, I'm just going to put it at the bottom, just so it looks like a bit of grass is shining through. We've got those leaves on top. And you get a tiny bit of grass. As you can see, I've signed her in the bottom corner. So that's why I was saying to always leave your left-hand corner nice and dark, because then you can use a lighter colour to put a nice signature. So I'm just outlining the base in some green. Put some holes in as we come down. Just to texturize her. There we go. And I think she's finished, so it's super easy. So I've signed her in the bottom left hand corner. So you've got this lovely mirror effect where you've got the reflection in the water, which you've learned how to paint. And you've got this beautiful pushback autumn tree line, which you've reflected in the water and learned how to paint ripples. You've got this large bush that's a bit darker, bringing it forward. And you've got the tree and the foreground. You've learned how to paint realistic bark and branches, and a really fantastic lake reflections easy acrylic painting tutorial. So my name is Murray. Thank you so much for watching and painting along at home. Please tag me at mstrippaintings with your version of the tutorials. We have over 100 painting tutorials now on the channel, so please like and subscribe. And happy painting everyone. Take care and see you for the next tutorial. Bye.